Hey gamers! Oh god, that intro was horrible. There are loads of movies that I find bad, but there are some films that I just find, well, underrated. And today, we'll be talking about underrated horror films, which some of these in the article will actually be on this list. And they are absolutely horrifying. From the man who brought Saw and The Conjuring, Dead Silence is a 2007 horror film with really bad reviews. But that doesn't make it a bad film. That's just what the critics think. Dead Silence is a modern classic in my eyes, and it rightfully deserves to be one. It's a movie like The Strangers, where it has really low reviews, but it is absolutely amazing, and it deserves its attention. This movie is terrifying, and in classic James Wan fashion, it has an evil spirit haunting a group of people through unusual actions. This movie will give you nightmares. It gave me nightmares. I'm not easily very scared. The first time I watched this movie, it left me up at night. And it might be the same for you. Terrifier is short but sweet. Warning, there will be blood. And also, did I tell you about the Copyright Act of 1976? Whatever, I don't make money on this channel and I have 3 subscribers. Let's talk about Terrifier. Terrifier is a film directed by Damien Leone in 2017, based off of one of his short films by the same name. And it is absolutely terrifying, no pun intended. This film is about a psychopathic clown that does not speak. This may sound like Halloween, but it is different. Unlike the childlike mindset of Michael Myers, this clown is smart. He tortures people before he kills them. He butchers them in front of their friends, and he is absolutely psychopathic. This clown is he's like someone you see in like the deep web. That is how disturbed he is. And he will leave you disturbed after you watch this film. He is absolutely terrifying. No pun intended again. He is just evil. He is evil and he knows it. And he will not stop at nothing to kill you. This film is absolutely disturbing, creepy, violent. If you love movies like Saw, you will love this film. It is terrifying. No, I'm not talking about this prodigy. Or this prodigy. I'm talking about this prodigy. This movie is absolutely amazing. And I love it to death. I saw this film on February 8th, opening night, and I loved it. There's no such thing as a perfect movie. And The Prodigy is not a perfect movie. But it is a phenomenal movie. And when I saw it, I knew this was one of my favorite films of 2019. And I find it terrifying. The concept of this child not being alone, the fact that, he has sinister intentions is just disturbing. You don't know what he's going to do next. The opening's chilling, the ending is terrifying, but in between is just straight up fear. You don't know what this boy is going to do. You don't know when he's going to snap. You don't know when he's gonna go insane. You don't know when whatever's possessing him is going to take control. Let's just let the trailer do the talking.
Mommy, what's wrong with me?
Miles is having a very difficult time making friends. I want you to tell me everything that you remember.
I don't remember anything.
Miles's brain is extremely well developed. He may need a specialist.
You must be Miles. Miles is dangerous.
I don't feel safe with him in the house.
Oh my God. He's so different now. I feel like I don't know him.
Mommy, will you always love me? No matter what I do?
If you want to see a better review of The Prodigy, you should watch Chris Stuckman's video on it. He makes a lot of points that I don't. And, yeah, let's get on to the next movie. Number 7, The Vivitch.
What went we out into this wilderness to find? Leaving our country, kindred, our fathers' houses. For what? For the kingdom of God. Let us pray.
Whoa, man, we're in for a treat. Some of you may recognize this film. It's because it's very, very popular. However, it still does not get the attention it deserves. This film is fantastic, and honestly, the director is making another film this year, which also looks fantastic. This film is about a family in the 16th century that have went to America from England, and they are haunted by a witch, and they think their daughter is a witch. And it is just terrifying. This movie doesn't have any jump scares. It doesn't have any blood and gore. It doesn't have any, well, it does have loads of nudity, but this isn't your ordinary horror film. This is what horror should be. It should be eerie, suspenseful, with loads of build-up. It's not like I'm against jump scares, but some of them get really old in lots of horror films. Like, for example, The Conjuring or Insidious, those have a lot of jump scares. But this one has none, and that's one thing I love about it. Another thing I love about it is how disturbing this film is. Watching this family go mad is something you will not forget. Alright, the next film is Axum. I'm just kidding, that's a horrible movie. Let's get on to the real number 6, shall we? Unlike the last film, not a lot of people know about this film. This movie, my god, it is one of the greatest horror films I've ever seen, and I am not exaggerating. That is the reason I put it on this list. It is about a small town in South Korea, and weird stuff starts happening when a Japanese man moves in, and it is a very good film. It's really good. It settles it's unsettling, it's creepy, it's a terrifying mystery that will leave you shaken for its 2.5-hour runtime. It is an absolutely phenomenal movie, and I definitely recommend it if you are a fan of foreign horror. This movie is absolutely amazing, and it is one of my favorite horror films. When I first found this movie on Netflix, I thought it would be the generic hour and a half horror film, but turns out it really isn't. This film is awesome. And I know I've been saying that about all the other movies, but I really mean it with a lot of these films. And they don't get the attention that they deserve. This movie especially. This movie is about a young man who works at his father's morgue place. I don't know what to call it. They find this dead body of an unidentified girl, and it's horrifying. This movie is just unusual, creepy, suspenseful. It's all the things you want in a horror movie. It's bizarre. It's a great horror movie, and I absolutely recommend this film. And it's on Netflix if you want to watch it. And this movie blew me away when I first saw it. It scared the ever-living crap out of me, and I love it so much. It Follows is a very recognizable movie, and honestly, this is one of my favorite horror films. It is very unique compared to most horror films because it gets a cliche like having sex equals death, and it turns it over on its head brilliantly. This movie is so well executed and so great for a film about sex equals death. This movie is a great film and a great concept. This film scared the living crap out of me. And it's scary because this thing is, you can only see it, only you can see it basically. And yet again, it takes a cliche and turns it on its head. And that's what I love about it so well. It's so well made. It's so great. This film is one of the best horror films of the decade. And it is just, the acting is amazing, the plot is amazing, everything about it is amazing. This film is brilliant. And it is terrifying in every single way possible. This film is absolutely astonishing, and I love it so much. This movie is a classic. The Strangers is a great horror film. It takes something cliche, like It Follows. It takes something cliched, like, for example, just a killer breaking into a house. And it makes it brilliant. It makes it a brilliant film. And this film is actually inspired by true events. I don't know if that's true or not, but it's still terrifying. This film is so real, so realistic, that it's just like you're with the main characters in the house, just watching them suffer because of these people. And it's a really, really terrifying film. It's suspenseful, it's creepy, it's disturbing, it's just a bunch, it's like a big old bunch of all the things you want in a horror film. And I know I've been saying that for a lot of movies, but that's because I don't have a script, and I think this movie is really good. Yeah, and it has one of the most terrifying scenes in modern horror, which is obviously the door breaking down and the radio playing the same looped note over and over. It's so suspenseful. It's a terrifying film, and I definitely recommend it. When it comes to Suspiria, I could say the same thing about the remake and the original. they're both underrated in my eyes. And personally, they aren't as recognized as they should be. Especially the original. Like, that isn't... It is a horror classic, but it isn't as recognizable as Nightmare on Elm Street or Halloween or Friday the 13th, and it really bugs me. Because Suspiria, both of these movies are great. And since I've seen the remake recently, I've considered putting them on the list. And these movies are just absolutely mind-blowing. These movies are amazing. They're great, and they'll probably be known as horror classics for a long, long time. And honestly, I think Suspiria is underrated, and especially the remake, because it only has like a 60 something on Rotten Tomatoes, and that just really bugs me because it's one of the best horror films of 2018, and I found Suspiria to be a great horror film, and this remake is probably almost as recognizable as the original classic, and I definitely recommend both films. Hereditary is absolutely unbelievable, and this is my favorite horror film. It's I love it more than classics like The Evil Dead or Nightmare on Elm Street. I love this movie more than those. And personally, due to the audience score, I find it underrated. And this film brings back the charm of the classic horror films like Rosemary's Baby. And this, it's one of the best horror movies ever made. Toni Collette's performance is absolutely amazing, and this movie defined her career. Same thing with the other actors in this film, like Millie Shapiro, who played Charlie. This is her first film, and she is absolutely amazing in this movie, by the way. This film is one of the greatest horror movies of all time, and it will go down in history as this generation's version of The Exorcist. And this movie will blow you away with fear, with emotional drama, with the acting performances. They're so great in the movie. This movie is flawless. It is a masterpiece, and it will be recognized throughout the whole world as a new horror classic.